Hey guys, Sam Bro with Bro Builds here, and today we finally start the laundry room renovation. Step 1, demo. So, like I said, we do have to demo this space, and you may remember from the home tour video that these shelves were filled to the brim with paints and tools and other things. But now that I finally finished the shed floors, I was able to get all those tools and things out of here and finally go through some of the paints that the previous homeowner left, throw some out, keep some, whatever. Didn't document that because it's just me moving stuff from point A to point B, but we are going to tear out these shelves right now. Hey guys, little quick word of advice before we move on. If you're ever building shelves, be sure to build them, then put them on the wall. Because whoever put these shelves in before me just used whatever they had on hand. There were screws, there were nails. It seemed like they built some of the walls on, or some of the shelves on the wall and some of the shelves off the wall. It was a mess and kind of a pain to tear down. And the back corner of the lower shelf was not very well supported, and I'm surprised it didn't sag or wasn't showing any signs of failing back there based on how they had it together. Put it together, then put it on the wall. It'll make it easier if you ever need to take it down, and they'll just be a lot sturdier. Well guys, we got the shelves out, and now we're going to take out this wall. A couple things we got to be careful about is to not hit any plumbing or wiring. I do have attic access above this wall. So I have scoped it out. It doesn't look like, aside from the washer plumbing that runs straight down and off to the side, that there's no plumbing in this wall. And then aside from the garage door opener, the dryer plug, there's no other electrical in these two walls either. But we're still going to be careful. We're going to knock a few smaller holes before we start banging into it with a big sledgehammer and taking the wall down. But let's get to it.
Here's Johnny!
Hey guys, Sam from the future here, hence why the wall is already built. The footage I had from this spot was just not good, so I'm re-recording it now after this wall is up, so pretend like you don't see this. But I do want to talk about, before I show you the footage of building this wall, why this old wall is still up. And it's for two big reasons. One being the electrical and plumbing. I wanted somewhere for all that stuff to still be connected before I moved it. I don't want any dangling outlets, and I don't trust myself to move the plumbing myself. So I had to leave this up. The electrical, some of the outlets are going to be on this wall. I may even move a switch or two to this wall. Haven't 100% decided yet. But the plumbing, like I said, I don't trust myself to do that for several reasons. One being that I have concrete floors, and I really don't want to break up the concrete for the drainage of the washing machine, the drain pipe. So I'm hiring somebody to do that. And then the other reason for leaving this wall up, even though it's not load bearing, is to support the ceiling here in the garage. I do have a slight sag, or at least I was pretty sure I did, based on looking at the attic access in this space. And that actually was confirmed. Again, spoilers. Whenever I built this wall, some of the measurements over the door, right where this attic access is, are lower than either side, or the rest of the wall, rather. And it probably would have been fine, but I just wanted to not have any moment that this ceiling was not supported by a wall. Now, for these walls, there are a few ways that I knew that they weren't load bearing. The one that runs to the back of the house, this way, it runs parallel to my rafters in my my attic space. So that's almost never going to be load bearing in a house unless you've got some really funky stuff going on in your attic space. And then for this other wall that runs this way with the door on it, there are three major ways to tell that it's not load bearing. One, the double plate is not doubled up. Two, this corner is not beefed up in any way, so it's not supporting really anything. It's built in a standard interior corner wall way. And it doesn't run the full length of the garage to the exterior wall. It also doesn't have a friend on the inside of the house that runs across either. It's all telltale signs that it's not load bearing. Now, you will notice that I did double up my top plate on the new wall, and I will talk about that later after I show you guys the footage of building this wall. So let's get to that. Hey guys, long time no see. This is the same day that I recorded the other section that I inserted before building the wall, so now you can pretend that the wall does exist again. And I do want to talk a little bit about a couple of the issues that we ran into building this wall. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up the wall. So the first issue that we ran into had to do with the bottom plate. Now, this issue is only really going to apply to anybody who's building a wall on concrete. If you have wooden subfloors, you just run some screws in there and you're perfectly fine. I would advise you to do a little more research than that into that. Don't really take my word for it, because I researched for concrete floors. I didn't research for wood floors because I don't have that anywhere in this house. But with that being said, for concrete floors, there are two options for attaching your bottom plate. One is a gunpowder pin activated nail gun. It's very similar to how an actual gun works, but just with a nail in the ground. So it is loud, so if you go that route, hearing protection, eye protection, be very safe, all that. But it's not really necessary to go that route unless you're putting up a big wall or a lot of walls, or you really need that speed on your side. Because chances are, if you don't do this for a living or anything like that, you don't already have that tool, and it's a really niche tool, and you're probably going to want to rent it. and it's just a lot more money on that front. But it is a lot faster, so if time and speed is something that you want to try, or you really just want to use that tool, go for that. But I decided to go the route of these concrete lag bolts. Now, the way that these work are that you drill a hole in the wood and the concrete, you drop the bolt in, and you tighten it, and it pulls a nut on the bottom of the bolt up, which expands the sleeve in between the top of the bolt and the bottom. As that gap shortens, it expands out. Think like a barrel. You know how when it looks a little squashed and the sides are bowed out, works just the same way. And it expands in that hole, and it really helps to hold the bottom plate down and from shifting front, back, left, right, you know, all of the above. Now, I had an issue with that where because I didn't want to rent a tool, I borrowed a hammer drill from my grandfather. Now, it was a special hammer drill, and you may not even run into this issue, but the drill bit that came with the bolts that I bought didn't fit in the hammer drill. It was slipping, falling out. It really wasn't working, so we had to use some drill bits that came with the hammer drill, but they didn't have the right size. Lots of issues. Long story short, I drilled the hole too small and tried to force it in with a hammer, and ended up getting the bolt stuck about halfway in. You know, it's in there. It lives there forever. Luckily, the kit that I got came with 4 bolts, and I only needed 3 for the space that I'm building a wall in. So that bolt is there. It's not doing any good. It's not doing any bad, and it'll just kind of live in the wall forever, and it'll just be our little secret. No one will ever know once the drywall's up. But with that being said, everything else went pretty smooth. I'll come back to the studs in just a second because I want to talk about the top of the wall. As I mentioned earlier, I did decide to double up the top plate on this wall, even though it's not load bearing, because of that sag that I thought it had, but I wasn't certain. I also put a 6-inch header above the door, which is something you would typically do on a load bearing wall rather than any other normal old wall. Again, I decided to go that route just for my ease of conscience, and it's actually above the door that my suspicions were confirmed that there is a sag. The studs that I put above the header on either side of the door are a certain length. I don't remember right now. I think they're like 5.5 inches. And then the one in the middle is closer to 5.25 inches. Nothing big, but enough that there is a sag in the middle of that door. And now I can even sleep a little bit more peaceful at night knowing that that is supported, and it's supported well. So that should stop the sagging from happening anymore, and I should be good in that department there. Now, a happy side effect about putting the doubled up top plates have to do with the studs here. I didn't know this, but if you go to your local hardware store and you ask them for 2x4 studs, and they say what size wall are you building, you know, you tell them 8 feet, you would assume that they would give you 8-foot boards, but they actually give you studs that are the perfect size for a bottom plate and a doubled up top plate to give you an 8-foot wall. I have 8-foot walls here, so these fit right in without needing any cutting. Now I lucked out and with all these small pieces that I needed to cut and to fill in the gap for my doubled up top plate and this bottom plate here, I didn't have any issues because I had measured and figured out how many studs I needed based on 8-foot boards. Lucked out that, you know, it all still worked out even having shorter boards. But it also meant that I didn't have to cut each and every one of these studs. We just had to put them up, toenail them in, and move on to the next one. With that being said, that is everything. There is still a lot of work to do in this space, obviously. So the next couple videos we'll be working in here. There'll probably be a video on moving the electrical if I decide to do that. Insulating the walls, putting up my vapor barrier, putting drywall on the walls, mudding, patching, painting, all that other kind of stuff. Got to redo the floors in here, which is a whole other thing. I do have some old tile that the previous homeowners left. I'm not too sure that it's enough to do this space. I'm hoping that it is, so I don't have to go and try and tile match it or find something else that doesn't clash with what's already in the house. But then there'll probably be another video about building out the countertop and cabinets that I'm planning on putting in here for the washer and dryer, and even the shelving that's going to go on the other side of the new wall here as like a pantry space. And in between all of that, I might even do another video where I'm painting the interior of my house and all that other kind of stuff. But with all that being said, I guess I'll see you guys next time.